weather update, we're forecasting a major severe weather outbreak expected tomorrow, Friday, from northern Mississippi to southern Wisconsin. Tornadoes, damaging winds, and hail all look to be very likely. All the must-know details before these storms start hitting places tomorrow are coming right up. Alright, welcome back into another More Weather Forecast video. My name is Beckett Moore, and if you didn't see my video yesterday, I did post a video. We do have more details coming in on this severe weather outbreak. There has been a couple of changes in the forecast as well. But for tomorrow, let's get straight into the forecast. Looking at tomorrow, Friday, at the Day 2 categorical outlook by the Storm Prediction Center here, we do have two moderate risk areas. This one on the northern end, this northern part of the moderate risk, this northern area, and then there's a southern area down south. But the northern area includes the Quad Cities as well as Davenport, Iowa, Iowa City, and Cedar Rapids. So Quad Cities, centered around the Quad Cities, is where that moderate risk is. And then an enhanced risk includes Chicago as well as St. Louis, Columbia, Missouri, Little Rock, Arkansas, Tupelo, Mississippi, Paducah, Kentucky, as well as Nashville, Tennessee. So a big enhanced risk, and then that smaller moderate risk area down to the south, two moderate risk area, which is something we don't see a lot here. That is centered around Memphis, and it includes Memphis as well as Jonesboro, Arkansas, and the Boot Heel of Missouri. So northeastern Arkansas, as well as extreme western Tennessee and extreme southeastern Missouri there in the Boot Heel. So two moderate risk areas. Yesterday was only an enhanced risk. Now it is a moderate risk. That shows that there is increasing certainty, there's increasing confidence that there will be significant severe weather in those two areas, and not to not talk about the enhanced risk area as well, as there's expected to be widespread and in some places scattered severe weather there in that enhanced risk and that slight risk as well, but a big severe weather event expected for tomorrow, as you can see by looking at this enhanced risk. Now looking at the tornado probability down south to this moderate risk area, we do have a 15% hatched area. That means there's a significant probability that there could be tornadoes, and some of those tornadoes could be strong, intense, and long track. So definitely something to take into account if you live in those areas. That is a extremely high tornado risk. Now up to the north, around the Quad Cities and Iowa City and Cedar Rapids, we have the same deal going on. A hatched risk, significant threat, again, long, dangerous, violent, long-tracked tornadoes was what I meant to say right there. So tornado threat is definitely there, and then everywhere in between is a 5%, which is not as big, and that 10% around that 15%, but still tornadoes could definitely be possible in that 5% range at all. We're not ruling anyone else out that's not in those two big areas, because I know our eyes are shifting to those areas, but there's a lot of population centers outside those areas that could see tornadoes as well, like St. Louis, Springfield, up towards Chicago, as well as Little Rock. Now looking at the wind risk, this is what's going to be probably the biggest thing we're going to have to watch out for besides tornadoes. We do have another hatch risk area into this area where the moderate risk is, but a little bit bigger than that, extends a little bit more farther to the east. That means significant, strong, damaging winds, 30% chance area, including that enhanced risk area and the two moderate risk areas. And then up to the north into Iowa, again centered around the Quad Cities, we do have a 45% chance of damaging winds, which is very significant. That means these storms are going to be packing a huge punch, packing damaging winds, and we could see winds in excess of 70 miles an hour and maybe up to 80 miles an hour with some very strong storms. So if you don't get a tornado, there's going to be a likelihood, if the storms are coming towards you and there's no rotation on them, that you still do have damaging winds. So make sure that patio furniture, if you have that out already, make sure that's strapped down. Nothing's loose outside, because it's going to be blowing around a lot. We could have power outages due to this, as trees are going to fall down. So damaging winds, a very big threat for tomorrow as well. And then hail, our biggest threat is in that that area, moderate risk area north of St. Louis and Hannibal. This includes Iowa City, and I'm pretty sure Cedar Rapids. Significant hail risk up there. Could see some big time hail. Everywhere else is in a 15% risk area, which is still significant. Golf ball size hail is probably going to be what we see for most areas tomorrow. So now that we're done looking at that, again, it is an enhanced risk of severe weather with 2 moderate risk areas. Before I get into the timing, I want to say this is what we call a bimodal severe setup. And you're asking, what does that mean? It basically means there's 2 areas where we're expecting significant severe weather. One of the areas is a northern area, one of the areas is a southern area, and that's what we got going. That's what we got going on with this severe weather setup for tomorrow. The northern area is centered into eastern Iowa, and the southern area into northwestern Arkansas, extreme northeastern Arkansas, extreme western Tennessee, and southeastern Missouri. So again, a bimodal setup. That's something that we may have to use a lot during this severe weather season, as we're going to see a lot of severe weather, so chances are we may see this happen Again, this is something that we see a lot, but this is a classic bimodal setup. So looking at around 10 a.m. tomorrow, this is the latest long run of the HRRR model. I'll show the NAM 3K as it shows 3 kilometer, as it shows a different kind of setup here, but first we're going to look at the HRRR, as this is what the radar could look like as we go into the future tomorrow. I showed the NAM 3 kilometer yesterday because we had more details with that, but now I'm showing the HRRR because I trust it a little bit more. But by 10 a.m. looking here, we do see some convection, some storms starting out into northern Missouri and southern Iowa. These don't look to be very significant. There still could be some hail on these, some damaging winds, and maybe a brief spin-up tornado. But really, the main thing that's going, and here we're looking at 1 p.m., the main storms start to fire off into Arkansas and Missouri southwest of St. Louis by the time we go into around 2 p.m. So this is looking at 2 p.m. Classic supercell look on a lot of these storms here. That's meaning there's going to be definitely a tornado possibility in these areas as these storms move northeast and eventually are shoved way down to the east, but then there will be a damaging wind threat. I'll get into that as we continue to play this out. But by the time we go into around 4 p.m., this is looking at 4 p.m. tomorrow Central Time, we do see supercell in St. Louis. Now this is what the radar could look like as we go into this, the future. This could change, but strong storms in the St. Louis area possibly around 4 p.m. Now if we see these storms fire a little bit farther to the south, then we could see storms not really affect St. Louis that much. But if this were to happen, I'm going to say an isolated tornado could definitely be possible in St. Louis if this happens. Don't take my word for it that there's going to be a tornado or anything, because I'm not at all saying that. I'm not trying to hype this up. But damaging winds, hail could be a definite possibility in the large population center of St. Louis. Any possible tornado, but that is what we don't want to see. But it is possible, so be on guard, have a tornado plan as well as a severe weather plan. But these cells down to the south of St. Louis, down into southeastern Missouri, and down into Arkansas are going to be likely tornado warned. Some of them will be tornado warned. We likely will see tornado watches at this time into Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, western Tennessee, and western Kentucky. But at this time, we are also going to see storms fire into Iowa, near Des Moines, Iowa City, and going into the Quad Cities in the coming hours. These definitely do have a tornado threat on them as well. But the storms up here especially, as well as all the storms tomorrow, are going to be very fast moving. So you might get damaging winds for, a couple of minutes, but then that storm's going to get out of here. They're going to be very fast moving. The low-level jet's going to be very strong, carrying these storms to the northeast. And we're definitely going to see a tornado threat, areas of rotation in these storms up here into Iowa, as well as they're closer to that surface low. By the time we go into around 5 p.m., we're going to see storms into the Quad Cities. Again, damaging winds, hail, and a possible tornado will be possible up there. Then into 6 p.m., we're seeing storms go into Memphis, exiting Jonesboro, exiting the Boot Heel, Missouri, and then going into Illinois, parts of western Kentucky and Tennessee, also into northern Louisiana, southeastern Arkansas here as well. Then into 7 p.m., storms knocking on the doorstep of Chicago, and this does not look like a good situation for Chicago, at least when it comes to damaging winds, because it looks like we're going to be at very strong damaging winds, very strong hail storms going towards Chicago by the time we go to 7 p.m. But by the time we get to this time here, around 8 p.m., it looks like the tornado threat is going to drop down, and we will mainly see a shift to that hail, but mainly damaging wind threat as this kind of broken up line or broken up clusters of storms move to the east and southeast here. This will be affecting Indianapolis, Nashville, Tennessee, Paducah, Kentucky, as well as Tupelo, Mississippi, and into southern Arkansas here as well. So big cities expecting to get damaging winds, hail, and an isolated tornado by the time we go into late tomorrow. So around 7 p.m., storms are going to go through Chicago, Indianapolis, and maybe into Nashville around 9 to 10 p.m. And then by the time we go into midnight here, 12 a.m., these storms will be weakened off a bit, and they will continue to weaken off as they go east towards the Appalachian Mountains. But yeah, that's the timing from the HRRR model. As you just saw, many storms will have the possibility of producing tornadoes, but for the most part, the biggest thing most people are going to see is damaging winds and possibly hail. So that's what you need to be ready for. Also have that tornado in place if the unlikelihood of a tornado coming down your streets does actually happen. You always want to be prepared for that. Now, the NAM 3 kilometer, this is around 6 p.m. here, does show a different kind of setup. It shows more of a squall line, but it does not handle, in my opinion at least, the storms down here in Arkansas, Tennessee, and Missouri very well. So I'm leaning towards the HRRR model, not this big squall line, more of a broken up line and clusters of storms, one into Missouri, eastern and southeastern Missouri, northern and northeastern Arkansas, into western Kentucky and Tennessee. Of course, up there in Iowa, into Illinois, and into northeastern Missouri. I think that's where we're going to see our biggest clusters of storms. In between, there might not be a good amount of severe action. Now, the HRRR doesn't show, some storms where the NAM 3 kilometer shows them. So I think it could be a mix between the two. But what you just saw with the HRRR model, the latest long run of it, is what I really do think is probably the most likely scenario to play out. So that about wraps up this more weather forecast video. Remember that what I just showed you was what the radar could look like as we go into the future. Not a good situation, especially down there into Missouri, northeastern Arkansas, western Tennessee and Kentucky, and remember this, into eastern Iowa, northeastern Missouri, and into western and northwestern Illinois, down towards St. Louis as well, is I think where we will see our biggest severe threat. Be prepared for that. Remember, tornadoes, damaging winds, and hail. I will have more updates on Twitter as always, and if it gets really bad, I may live stream on Twitter since I'm unable to live stream here. If I for some reason figure out to live stream here, I will definitely do that, but I may live stream on Twitter. It depends, because I don't really know how to work that out, but I'll check it out, and I may have more updates over there. But as always, stay prepared out there. It's very important for tomorrow if you're in those areas that expect strong, intense, and severe storms. As always, subscribe and go follow me on Twitter, and I will see you soon with more weather.